Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Juji, and I'm here with Shira, Lee, and Kim. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. So, ladies, today I wanted to talk about the idea of belonging. One of the earliest memories we have usually is some sort of rejection from peers, and then the way that we contort ourselves in order to belong, which ironically makes us feel isolated because we're not really showing people who we truly are. So I really want to talk about this and see where you're at in your process. Sort of working our way through these kinds of things. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I do. I know that we're titling this show "Longing for Belonging" because I can absolutely relate to longing for that. And it goes back to my earliest childhood memories of being in a school where I was the only Jewish kid in my class. And I definitely got made fun of, and I was called dirty Jew. And having a father who's a Holocaust survivor made that all the more horrible. And I really felt like I didn't belong in school. I just remember, like, there's so many little memories, nuggets of, like, we're playing kickball and I was always like the last to get picked. And just, it really shaped who I became as even an adolescent. We all know adolescence is hard. We just want to feel like we're belonging, but like, you belong to this group and then they shun you and then you go to that group. And then it really wasn't until, like, I struggled a lot with that. It really, I can see my journey into my now 50s unfolding where I have felt more and more like I belong, but I also changed who I was when I didn't feel like I belonged. Because you're either going to feel like you belong or you're going to change your personality to try to fit in. But in the long term, that never works. But we don't know that. We don't know that when we're teenagers and we're young adults. Like, we don't know that. So I'm just glad that I now have that awareness and that sense of belonging. And I'm like, no, I really feel good about who I am. And, you know, I belong to many groups now, and this being one of my favorite.
As far as, I have a similar feeling about when I was younger. And, I was born in Israel and my family moved to the United States when I was 7. And so I'll never forget it. So clear to me how I felt initially like I did not belong at all. And I totally longed for it. I didn't have the language. I didn't have friends. I didn't know anything. And I came from a place where I felt so belonged and so connected because I grew up with a ton of cousins. Both my families are very big. My parents had a lot of siblings and we had so many cousins. So that was one of my first memories of not feeling like I belonged, but I so badly wanted it. And soon enough, you make friends and you get acclimated and you adjust. But it's that yearning to connect it's so huge when you don't have it. And again, I can say, like, my life was extremely different before we moved and extremely different after, until now in my older life. Obviously, I mean, I feel very connected, very belonging to certain circles and people. And it kind of keeps you feeling fulfilled, and whole. It's like you need that. It's so critical to have a place to belong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 46 and I'm still on this journey of longing for belonging, but feeling like I belong more, obviously, than when I did when I was a kid. But it's still there, in small ways. And, when you're a kid, you don't know your true self. I'm right now really looking at, like, who am I truly, to try not to compromise my needs and what I want and what I desire and what would make me most happy, like for someone else to make them happy so that I could have this sense of belonging and, doing the right thing or being the perfect wife or friend. I mean, when I look at my childhood, it's actually very yucky to look at like the things I did when I compromised that. It's probably very, very similar for a lot of people. I smoked. I thought that I was cool. I fit in more. I drank, made bad decisions. I think the thing that makes me feel the most yucky, honestly, is like fooling around with boys, because I remember certain situations where I literally didn't want them to touch me, but I let them do it anyway, because I just wanted them to like me. I wanted them to think that I was like one of the cool girls in school, and I wanted to get invited to the parties. That was the big thing. Like, isn't that just disgusting though? Like, I wanted to get invited to a party, so I would like totally kiss this guy or let him touch my boobs or whatever. Like, gross. I can't even like, it just makes me feel gross, And God, I'm so glad I'm not young anymore. Like, I just don't want to ever go back to that time. And listen, everybody has a different childhood. Everyone is raised differently. I'm very aware that I was looking for love on the outside of myself because I didn't know how to give it to myself. I wasn't, told by my siblings or my parents, like, respect yourself, don't let people treat you this way, or you're worth more. Like, I didn't hear those things. So I had to learn all that for myself, and I learned it. And, I'm glad I learned it. But today, standing in a 46-year-old body, as a grown adult woman, I can see all the small times when I'm like at work. Well, when I used to be in an office and I wanted to get along with all the coworkers, all the female coworkers, and I would like definitely kill people with kindness, even when they were kind of bitchy to me. And I did that because I was like, I wanted them to like me so I could fit in with everybody and sit and have lunch in the kitchen. Like, I wasn't really my true self. My true self, like now, I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want to sit with you and have lunch if you're going to be kind of full of attitude. You know what I mean? Like, that's not who I'm attracted to now. But anyway, I'm just saying, as I get older, like, I can see it when it's happening more and more. And I really want to continue to pay close attention to that as I discover who am I truly, because I'm still figuring that shit out.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah. And I can say, I think I can speak for all of us to say that we're all still trying to figure it all out. It's not perfect. It's never, like we said in other episodes too, will we ever be there? Will we have arrived? I mean, I think we are very close in certain ways with certain things, but again, it's like what always comes up, the awareness, being aware is like that right there, the biggest step.
I actually
say awareness. I want to sing.
We should have
we need to get a sound bite. We all have a button.
Confetti.
I feel like I want to say that I don't know which one of you said you don't know who you are as a kid. And I actually want to say that that's not true. We do know who we are as children. In fact, our understanding of ourselves is more like a returning to knowing who we are. It's just we are so far removed from our childhood selves. We have abandoned ourselves so many times that rediscovering who that person is really what it comes down to. Like, we are born, loving life in a lot of ways. We are born completely innocent. We have a clean slate. We don't have any hurts. We don't have any pains. We don't have any of those things. And I think I remember saying this in a previous episode, but this was something super powerful that my friend said. Self-abandonment is the king of all wounds. It is the wound from which all other wounds stem, because our desire for belonging is coupled with the belonging as our authentic selves. so you could be a part of a group, you can get invited to that party, you can go sit with your coworkers, but if it's under false pretenses, then it's not really you that they're inviting to the party. It's not really you that they're sitting with in the conference room. It's somebody else. It's a version of you that you present to the world, and that doesn't make you feel like you belong. It makes you feel even more isolated than you ever have before. So rediscovering our authenticity and who we truly are, and then being invited to the party, that's what it really comes down to. And it's so funny because we all have kind of like similar backgrounds. Like my family moved back and forth between Chicago and Budapest for most of my childhood. So one of the ways in which I abandoned myself is my name. When I was being taken to kindergarten, I was basically told by my mom that it would be easier for me to fit in if the kids could pronounce my name. So I came into kindergarten as Susie.
Oh, I don't think I ever knew this.
Yeah, and so I was Susie from the time that I was in kindergarten to when I went to college, and it actually caused some problems with like my college transcript because it said Susanna on it and my social security number like
Oh
didn't match
my
the name.
God.
And so part of part of going to college was like reclaiming my name and just being very firm on this, like I don't care if it's hard for you to pronounce, like figure it out, that's a you problem, it's not a me problem, right? But I've known other people who've come here from other countries with these beautiful, incredible names, and then we like water it down or have this American name that makes it easier for other people. And I've known that those people have reclaimed their names because it's part of our identity. And it's not about like making it convenient for other people. It's about, this is who I am. This is who I was born as. This is part of my cultural background. And I'm going to celebrate that. I'm going to, wear it proudly instead of like, I could have stayed Susie, I guess, for the rest of my life, because this country is where we ended up staying, which wasn't necessarily clear from the beginning. It wasn't like, oh, this is where we're going to live. It was a back and forth about that. And then we ended up landing here. And so that was a really powerful statement at 18 years old. And I'm glad that I did it then and not later on in life. But are there still people who remember me as Susie? Yes, there are. And it's very difficult for anybody to, like, if they met you in a certain way, then it doesn't roll off the tongue for them as easily. But that's kind of the whole thing about personal development as well. You met me as this person who was willing to compromise myself in X, Y, and Z ways. And maybe that was convenient for you, but I need to reteach you how to respect me. I need to reteach you how to love me, because that doesn't work for me anymore. It worked for me then, it worked for you, obviously, but it doesn't work for me anymore. So you can either continue to love me in the way that I want to be loved, or like, maybe this isn't going to work anymore. And that's one of the scariest things about personal growth, is feeling like all of a sudden you're this whole other person standing in this whole other place. Will I still belong to the places that I used to fit into only because I was contorting myself to be there?
Wow, Juji, that's enormous, because that's like you coming back to belonging to you, right? Because we also had that sense of belonging to ourselves. But what came up for me just now is this the first group that you actually belong to is your family. And there are so many families out there that people don't feel like they belong in for various reasons. Like I was literally just going back to my own upbringing and my own family. And I never felt like, I guess the way it's supposed to be is that, you know, your parents are bringing you up in love and support and, you know, there for you in the hard times and all. Like my parents were just not really that. I don't think they knew to do it. And also like they just had their own marital problems. So it was just like, you know, and even back then it was like kids are seen and not heard, and we never talked about emotions. We never talked about like, we're a family unit and, you know, go team. And I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it really pains me when I think about two things. One is I've never really felt like I belonged to my family. That sounds like a real exaggeration, but I'm only looking back on that now going, didn't really feel like a family unit. Like I also lived in Israel as a child and my father wasn't there. And, you know, my parents were separated and I don't know, it's just like didn't feel like a family unit. And now I'm fast forwarding to my own, with my family, with my children, and that they don't have that now either. And it just makes me sad. It makes me sad that you know, whatever family unit I did create ended up breaking apart. And like I hope that my children felt that sense of family belonging with all of the dysfunction, with all of the shit, that they felt like that they could always come to us with things. And I really do feel like I created that. And part of me is just like, all right, Shira, you know, too bad, so sad. Like your marriage ended. Like that's just the way it goes. Because I really feel like I have now returned to myself, and that is worth all of it. It really is worth all of it, because this is my journey in life. This is my life. And I feel like that sense of respect, Juju, that you were talking about, it's like I feel like I have returned to that sense of like, this is who I am. And therefore I am now attracting all kinds of groups of people that get it, you know?
You know, Shira, I just want to say that your kids, your family, I guess I'm really referring to the kids, they're too on their own journey to returning home to themselves. So whatever did transpire, I mean, and I'm talking for all of us and for all of humanity, as hard as it is to go through situations with your relationships and your family, it's almost like on some level, like I'm really seeing right now how the closest people to me are triggering me so that I can see the bigger issues within myself. It's not really about them. It's not really about their issues. It's about their issues showing me I need to return home to me. And here's all the issues, Kim, that, you know, you have to really sit with the shit right now. But it's not even, it's so amazing how I'm seeing this like big picture that I kind of can't explain, but every kid is like needing to return to their own self. And sometimes they don't find that until they're older. I didn't as well. Juju, you said, first of all, I'm so happy that you returned back to your name because I freaking love your name. And you said something before that really like resonated in me, and I'm glad you said it. But I definitely, for most of my life, contorted myself in some way, shape, or form so that the other person could see me in a certain light. And all that was me just trying to control how they saw me, how I wanted them to see me. So all I have to say about that is I see it so fucking clearly right now. And I'm working on it. And I'm so glad to be working on that because I'm really excited to meet like my true self. And I'm really excited to like share that person with you guys too. And to share that person with my husband, and to share that person with my mom, and to share that person with everyone. And that is important to me. And like you said, Jules too, it's like, there's this like fear that's so underlying that what if they don't love me for who I really am? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not accepted? What if I don't belong? Oh, it's so scary, you know?
Kim, I gotta tell you that, I mean, you're already on your way. You know, we all are. You're accepted, you're loved, all of that. Like now, you know, the way you pose that question, how will it be when I meet my true self? You're like already more than halfway there. It's like you're evolving, right? So this is not like, when will that day come? You know,
Right.
is
Yeah.
it next week, next year, and 10 years from now?
Yeah.
But it's,
You know what I'm looking forward to, Lee, is the person who doesn't have the inner suffering anymore, like the free feeling in my mind, like just to go about this life freely, and for there to be, for things to just be more released out
Yeah.
of me. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah,
Totally.
totally makes sense. And I feel like for all of us, there's a sense of also there's that inner talk still. There's some things that we may never like come to terms with what we've done on our own journeys, right? So Shira, very similarly to you, like I feel that, you know, I got divorced like 10 years ago, and I believe that definitely impacted, you know, my son, but it's, you know, it's the journey I went through. It's what I did. In some regards, I feel like in trying to protect my family unit, I stayed in it for way too long with the marriage. I stayed in it for way too long. And it's funny because we're talking about connection also, right? And somebody here alluded to, like, you know, if you're invited to the party, you know, you don't even need to be invited to the party. Like I feel like I was invited into this marriage, which I thought would be so much better. And I didn't have connection really for too many years in the marriage. You know, and at the time I used whatever tools I had, whatever I thought was best for me in preserving that connection, that unit. So yeah, we had a unit, maybe just not a connection. And yeah, and I do feel that today's, you know, or our kids, for example, Shira, you know, whatever we have experienced in our marriages and then leaving them, it's something for, you know, we're going on our own journey. Our kids will be on their own journey. And I think it's important to realize that, you know, we're doing our best, and we're getting better at it. We're getting better at being the best people that we can be and loving ourselves. And the more we love ourselves, the more we can be of benefit to others and not really dwell on or go back to the past and what happened, because nothing's going to change. Nothing in the past will ever change. It's today and moving forward. So, you know, what are we doing now to be in a better place? That is really my ultimate goal every day now, is to, like, how can I make today the best this week, next month? I'm not thinking too far into the future, but I certainly am almost, yes, memories from the past come back all the time, but I am not dwelling on them, not giving that any investment of my real estate in my head.
Lee, that is so helpful. And you just gave me a little bit of an aha moment. And that is when I was talking before about, like, you know, my family growing up, and then, like, you know, then raising my own family. And it just made me realize, like, families, first of all, come in all shapes and sizes. And just because I'm not together with the man that was my husband does not mean that we're not a family. It's like, I can look at it differently. I can say, we'll always be a family, right? My children will always have a mother and a father who love them. And there's just, I just got a little sense of release when I had that thought, where it's just like, oh my God, I broke up my family. Did I give my children a sense of belonging? Did we feel okay? Like, you did the best you could, right? Like, we had a lot of good times. I know I gave my children love, and it doesn't have to be looked at, I guess, with so much
So
drama.
true. And that's what that's what delayed me in leaving my marriage, is
Yeah.
really not to break up that whole, and actually I gotta say, I was brainwashed into thinking that, because my ex used to always say, you want to break up the family unit? And I knew it was not right. Something was not right. And so I stayed because it got me thinking, like, I'll break up what the fuck does that mean?
Right.
No, it is so not like that, because the love that I will have for my child will never fade, will never be any different. So that part never will ever break. Yeah, I as far as I'm concerned, we 1/3 of us is like, you go away. Nothing else broke.
Lee, if you think about it, the only unit you broke up with or broke up was like you and you, like your true self versus what you thought you should, like, you know what I mean? Like there's like what
Yeah.
your inner
Yeah.
source wanted, like that's what you broke up. That was it.
Yeah, I started to sense my worth more, and I started to realize that I do not need, anything, that it did not serve me well anymore, and there was nothing that I could do to save. I'm not saving my child's life or this family unit by staying.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of people do. A lot of people stay in marriages. I have friends who are in marriages that they are miserable. They are miserable, and the kids see it and feel it, and they're impacted, and nothing is being done. And I don't know if it's to save the family unit. I don't even think so anymore. For some of them, it's more out of like convenience, financial, like, let's not interrupt what's going on here with the house. And it's that to me is sad. That to me is sad. But I just, the empowerment of getting out of that is huge. It's huge. It's priceless.
Mm.
Well, and to wrap that up, I want to say, like, we think that if we, like, the reason we keep from being our true, authentic, express selves and standing up for what we need is like what Kim said. You don't know if those people are going to love you, or like for the sake of, our children, or whatever it is that we think that we're doing. And it's so crazy to think that really what we've come to is actually doing what's right for us is contagious. Being our true, authentic selves is a model for others to be their own authentic selves. So like, I respect so much that both of you did what was correct for you. It may have been painful at the time, but your children will remember, my mom walked away when it was inconvenient, when it was hard, and I can do hard things as a result of that. She stuck up for herself. I didn't like it at the time necessarily. I mean, when my parents got divorced, I was like, amen. Like,
Me too.
I was psyched. I was like,
We're like, let's go,
finally.
people, let's go.
And that's really what it comes down to, whether it's like a situation or just a simple act of self-expression, setting boundaries being one of them, for us to be like, oh, she can set a boundary. Maybe I can set a boundary. That sounds like it could be cool. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a total role reversal of the way that we see it. And I really believe that that's like a huge, huge step in the right direction.
Amen.
All right. So I think, like I said, this is a good place to wrap it up. If you've enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests or questions by commenting below. We'll see you soon. Thank you for watching. Ciao for now.